Part 44. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 431. Chapter 431 Departure. Yes, Pan Ziyuniang agreed from the side, although my little Chiao didn't officially call Ms. Wan her husband. Ms. Wan also taught her a lot. That child is a grateful person and comes over every now and then to talk to Ms. Wan. We are here, you don't have to worry. Yang Xiao solemnly thanked Pan Ziyuniang and gave her an extra 100 taels. Pan Ziyuniang was so frightened that she refused repeatedly. What are you doing? Why did you give me the banknote? Take it back quickly. Yang Xiao said sincerely, Mom, please keep this money for me and occasionally buy something for your husband. If he needs medical advice, you can help him with it. If it's not enough, just go to Rongsha village and ask my housekeeper for some money. Then there's no need for so much. Pan Ziyuniang was a little afraid to take it. Yang Xiao smiled and said, it's okay. Just keep it. Pan Ziyuniang could only collect the banknote. Yang Xiao was relieved to go back. When she returned to the village, she saw that Sun Yan was not there. After asking, she found out that she and Li had gone to Yang Han's house with a matchmaker to propose marriage. Yang Han went into the mountains early in the morning and came back in the evening. As soon as he arrived at his door, he saw several women surrounding his door. The matchmaker spotted him with sharp eyes, and immediately shouted at the top of her voice, Hey! This must be Mr. Yang Han. The sound of master made Yang Han's body stiffen for a moment. After he recovered, he stepped forward without leaving a trace. His eyes fell on the familiar Li family. He seemed to feel something and opened the courtyard door first to invite them in. Yang Han's house is still the same. He is a single man living in a small place. It looks very spacious, but it is a bit messy and the corners are full of dust. No. It should be said that except for the kitchen room and the main room, other places were so dirty that you couldn't even see it. Fortunately, no one dislikes it. The matchmaker muttered too much, it's really hard not to have a mistress in this house. Mr. Yang Han, I happen to know a few widows with good conditions over there. Do you want to consider it? Li gave the matchmaker a fierce look, dissatisfied. Hey! Don't forget what you came to do. The matchmaker laughed twice and slapped herself. I'm used to it, I'm used to it. Don't be angry, old lady. As she spoke, she hurriedly said to Yang Han warmly, Mr. Yang Han, I am a famous matchmaker in Das Han town. My surname is Chen. You can just call me Matchmaker Chen. You must have guessed the purpose of our visit. I am not exaggerating. Looking at the entire Kuzhu prefecture, who can be as wealthy as our Guanzhenhou prefecture? Not to mention that young Master Yang is still a Nujinshi. This condition is enough to marry a princess. Li couldn't stand it and kicked the matchmaker. Let's get to the point. Matchmaker Chen was in pain, but she dared not say anything in anger. She tugged the corner of her mouth and said, Young Master Yang, Yang Chang Song, is very pleased with your girl. Marquis Guanzhen intends to marry your family. We have brought the betrothal gift. Is Mr. Yang Han willing? Yang Han breathed a sigh of relief and ignored Matchmaker Chen. Instead, he looked at Li. Master Ho has told me in advance, and Xia Hua also sent someone to send a letter back. Since the children are willing, it's me who will do the triathlon again. Looking at the grown UPS, I naturally won't object, so let's just do it. Okay. Matchmaker Chen stood up happily, quickly took out the betrothal gift list, cleared her throat, and was interrupted by Yang Han when she was about to read. Needless to say, I already know it. What else do you want me to do? Matchmaker Chen choked for a moment, as if it was the first time she saw someone who was marrying a daughter so careless about the betrothal gift. It took her a while to recover, and she murmured, the next step is to exchange invitations and ask someone to pick an auspicious day. Marriage, It's just that young Master Yang has been appointed by the Emperor to stay in the capital, and I'm afraid he won't be able to come back to get married. This is the focus of their visit today. Sun Yan had been silent just now, and now he asked politely, Uncle Han, can you go to the capital? Yang Han shook his head without thinking much, I can't go. Li Shi stared in surprise, why can't you go? Yang Han. This is Xiaohua's lifelong event. It's not that Santi doesn't want to come back to get married, but it's just that we really can't leave. We can't keep putting it off, right? If you're worried about the money, it's easy to handle. After all, it's our family who invited you to the capital, so we will naturally have to bear all the expenses for your trip. Moreover, we also have a team. If we all go together, there won't be any danger. Yang Han's mouth twitched slightly, but his face was still paralyzed. Auntie, that's not what I meant. I have things to do in the mountains and can't leave, and the capital is too far away, so I don't want to bother. However, the children are old and there really is no time to delay. In this case, I wrote a letter to ask my old friend to help. When the time comes, Xiaohua will marry from my old friend's family. It will be the same with their help. Do you still have old friends in the capital? Li was shocked. Sun Yan and Chen Matchmaker also looked over. Yang Han was very helpless. Auntie, I have served in the military before. For so many years in the military camp, I have always had some friends who have been friends by fate. We are all from different places and have different family backgrounds. The capital is at the foot of the emperor. I have an old friend there. Isn't that normal? Everyone suddenly realized. Ms. Li patted her forehead in annoyance, if you didn't tell me, I would have almost forgotten these things. That's fair to say. The brother who had a lifelong friendship with Yang Han was of good character, so she didn't have to worry about the complications in the marriage. Matchmaker Chen did not expect that things would go so smoothly. The marriage was completed before the cup of tea had even cooled down. Once she was happy, she started talking about something else, and Ms. Li quickly dragged her out and said goodbye. Yang Han closed the courtyard door and breathed a long sigh of relief, feeling relaxed all over. After finishing this matter, Sun Yan completed all the tasks of returning to the village. She had a dinner with old man Li Yang and the others that night, and she left the village with Yang Xiaoa and the children before dawn the next day. First pick up Mrs. Zhou in the town, and then set off to the capital together. The summer heat is scorching in Beijing in July. On such a day, adults don't want to move, but children are full of energy and always want to run outside. Zhang Ning couldn't deceive him, so he took his maid and mother-in-law to the kitchen to make some refreshing desserts to cool down the heat. In this dynasty, ice in summer was a luxury product. The most common summer dessert eaten by nobles and nobles was ice and snow-cold yuanzi, which was made with ice, sweet glutinous rice and milk. It tasted similar to modern smoothies and sugar water, and was eaten by ordinary people. Sorry. Their family does have this condition, but Zhang Ning thinks it is a waste and eating smoothies in the summer is not good for the body, so he has not bothered with it. Ordinary people's way to relieve the heat is to boil lotus seed soup or herbal tea and put it in a well to cool down. It tastes sweet and refreshing, and after a bowl, the whole body will be cooled down a lot. There are children at home, so she plans to make a pot of xiangji cold cake using xiangji and brown sugar rice milk, and then boil some sweet red bean paste, pea yellow, and sugar water, put them together in the well to stabilize the water, and then bring them up when they are almost cool. Add a little of each when eating, and top with sugar water for a unique taste. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 432. Children can also eat some. Yang Legzu has begun to enlighten. At this time, there is only one baby in the family, Yang Lejeng. The little baby is most looking forward to his grandmother cooking. When Zhang Ning placed a bowl of summer desserts in front of him, The baby immediately became quiet and stopped making a fuss in the garden. The sun is up. Zhang Ning breathed a sigh of relief, and he and Yang Xiahua were enjoying themselves and eating desserts. Butler Song hurriedly came from the moon arch. "Madam, it's not good, Mr. Su has been assassinated." Bang! Zhang Ning accidentally knocked over the bowl and spoon on the table and stood up suddenly. "Are you injured?" Butler Song wiped the sweat from his forehead and nodded. "A visitor from the Su mansion said that Mr. Su was hit by an arrow in his left arm. Fortunately, there was a stone on the road. The carriage bumped a little and the direction was wrong. Otherwise, it would have probably hit the center of the heart sun. Bodhisattva bless, Bodhisattva bless." Zhang Ning clasped his hands together and prayed, then looked at Butler Song with sharp eyes. "Have you caught the assassin?" "The guards assigned by the prince have already gone after him, and the situation is unknown." Zhang Ning thought for a moment, then looked at Yang Xiahua and said, "Let's go. Let's go to Su Mansion. Maybe you can help." Yang Xiahua quickly put down the bowl and chopsticks. Ayana saw it and followed her. Inside Su Mansion. When Zhang Ning came over, the doctor had just bandaged Sun Yuashan's wound and warned, "Although the wound is deep, fortunately the arrow is not poisonous. Take a good rest these days, be careful of infection, and do not touch the wound with water. I will come back tomorrow to change it medicine." "The doctor is here." Sun Yuashan asked Chi Mo to send the doctor out. Chimo wiped away tears and led the way. After the people left, Zhang Ning asked solemnly, "Have you caught the assassin?" Sun Yuashan shook his head, "Not yet. The man ran all the way to Hualiu Lane. There are many dragons and snakes in that place. The sky is not open during the day. They are all girls. It is not easy to search for the prince's people. In all likelihood, they will not be found." Yang Xiahua looked at the arrow and looked at Ayana beside her. "Is there anything special?" Ayana just took one look at it and shook her head. "This is a common arrow in the market. It doesn't even have a serious origin. It was most likely obtained from a small shop." Yang Xiahua nodded. "The other person must be poor, or a halfway monk, and not a serious assassin, otherwise he wouldn't use this kind of thing. Too cheap, too cheap. But this makes it even harder to target." Zhang Ning's heart sank slightly, and he frowned and looked at Sun Yuashan. "You'd better go back with me and live in Guanginhou Mansion. There are more people there, so it's safer." The house that Sun Yuashan lives in now was bought by Zhang Ning through a middleman. It is some distance away from the Guang'an Marquis Mansion. It is surrounded by many petty officials and wealthy businessmen. When the house was bought, Sun Yuashan insisted on moving here, but Zhang Ning had no choice. "You can only rely on him." Sun Yuashan thanked Zhang Ning for his kindness and shook his head with a wry smile. "Auntie, I am the target now. There are many people who dislike me, are jealous of me, and are jealous of me. I can be assassinated in broad daylight today. Who knows what will happen to me later? What's the danger? I must not cause any more trouble for my aunt. Don't worry, today's incident has already alerted the government. The palace should have received the news, and there will always be someone who can make the decision for me." Sir Su is right. A nanny led someone through the door. She first saluted Zhang Ning and then blessed Sun Yuashan. "This old slave is Aunt Su who was beside the queen. The queen has already assassinated Mr. Su. Report the matter to the emperor. The world is clear at the feet of the emperor. The other party is so arrogant and disrespectful. The emperor is furious and has sealed the city gate and sent patrol guards and government officials to search. Mr. Su can rest in peace and recover from his injuries. Also, the Queen Mother and Princess Yongyang ordered the old slave to give these to Mr. Su to suppress his shock." Mother Su put down her things and left with the people. As soon as she left, Sun Yuashan breathed an inexplicable sigh of relief and said with a faint look, "Auntie, who do you think the person behind this is? He has been in the capital for so long and has never made an enmity with anyone." Although he won the first prize, he was only a sixth-rank scholar in the Hanlin Academy. He was not worth mentioning in the capital. No one would kill him because of his official career. Excluding this reason, the only issue left is the marriage grant. Ever since the emperor granted the marriage, the capital has been calm on the surface, but in fact there are undercurrents. During this period, there have been many people approaching him. He has seen them all, both those who want to please and those who have bad intentions. He also understands the backgrounds of those people. They should not have the courage. Assassinate him in broad daylight. Even if you want to kill him, you won't find such a half-assed assassin. Zhang Ning was also puzzled. It stands to reason that since the opponent is going to assassinate you, he should be fully prepared, but this assassination looks like a temporary move, without any rules, and the method is very crude. What's more important is that the opponent didn't even shoot the arrow. Quenching the poison. Sun Yuashan nodded solemnly, my aunt and I can't figure this out. Does the other party want me to die or not? Wang Xiaoao, who caught the assassin in Beiwa Tower, was confused. Ishikuro couldn't figure out where he had slipped up. He had obviously hid in his lover's room, but before he could sleep with the beauty in his arms, he was captured by the guards who rushed in. King Xiaoao knelt down and looked at the ordinary-looking Shihisa curiously. He touched his chin and wondered, why did you assassinate Sun Yuashan? I don't know what you are talking about. I just came to Beihualu to find a girl, Ishijiro said, subconsciously looking around the room, and finally found his lover in the corner, and hurriedly shouted, Do one hurry up and testify to me, am I always here with you? The cuckoo was trembling and didn't dare to look at him at all. Ishikuro's heart instantly froze, and his face became ferocious with anxiety. Tell me. I'm so good to you. I want to redeem you, why are you mute? Do-wan sighed, and continued to shrink into the corner, stammering, I really don't know. I fell asleep. The corners of Ishijiro's mouth dropped, and the light in his eyes disappeared. King Xiaoao sneered and said, Stop struggling. You didn't even ask before entering Beiwa building, whose territory this is. All the girls in the building are covered by me. Who do you think they will listen to? Ishikoku's face was ashen, he gritted his teeth and remained silent. The guard said, Your Majesty, we have checked. There is powder on his shoes, which is consistent with what we put in. What kind of powder? Ishijiro was confused. Tujuan was so angry that he cursed in a low voice, You're so stupid. The prince is wise and powerful, and has already set up a dragnet. No one can do evil under his nose, so hurry up and do it. Ishikuro's heart was completely dead, but he still refused to reveal a word. Finally he was taken away by King Xiaoao. The palace has its own way of making people open their mouths. Zhang Ning couldn't wait for King Xiaoao in the Su mansion, so she guessed that he was chasing the murderer. After all, that man promised to protect Sun Yuashan, but in the end he got hurt. She was afraid that he would not show up in front of her until the truth was found out. End of chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 433. Seeing that it was getting late, she explained a few more words before taking Yang Xiahua and the others back. As soon as he returned to the house, Butler Song came forward to report, Madam, there is a letter from the second young madam. They will arrive in the capital in 2 days. Zhang Ning paused in his steps and held his forehead against a headache. Hurry up and tell Su Mansion. Everything comes together. If Mrs. Zhou knew that Sun Yuashan was injured, she would probably faint from fear. Inside the inn, Princess Hui pointed at the noses of Lan Suivendong and Lan Suivenhan and yelled, You can still miss a weak scholar. You even alarmed the emperor. You are really getting more and more capable. Lan Sui Venhan was dissatisfied and retorted, it was the princess who said that Ishijiro had killed countless people and was ruthless and would not betray us, so we came to find him. Now that he has failed, are you going to blame us? There is no such truth in this world. Princess Wei clenched her fist tightly and swept all the porcelain on the table. How did she know that Ishijiro was so unreliable? Think back to the beginning. Princess Wei slowly closed her eyes. That's all. If she misses it, she will miss it. Anyway, she has something to do with Ishijiro, so he wouldn't dare to confess them. He probably wouldn't dare. Lan Suivendong frowned and glanced at the silent Princess Wei, and said thoughtfully, is that Shihizu reliable? We really can't let anyone kill him. Princess Wei sneered mockingly, now everyone has been arrested. Where can we kill them? You still pray that he won't give us away. Lan Sui Venhan's face tightened, and he deceived himself and said, probably not. Only we know his true identity. If he dares to betray us, he will not survive. If it weren't for the fact that the people they brought were different in size and appearance from the Han people, they wouldn't have had to target outsiders. Shihiza was a robber they met on the way to the capital. He had a notorious reputation and happened to be under Lan Suivendong's command. He was captured alive and brought into the capital along the way. Their original plan was to wait until they returned and then Ishijiro to his lair and empty the gold and silver treasures inside. For this reason, they and Ishijiro agreed to give him a certain freedom of movement. This time it was also because they were trapped. In the capital, there are people watching all around. It is really impossible to secretly hire a murderer to kill people, so I can only use him. Lan Suivendong frowned. It was a capital crime for Shihiza to assassinate the imperial officials. It was also a capital crime to expose their true identity after confessing them. No matter what, he would not survive. But if he was honest and lenient, he might die faster without having to suffer torture. If it were him, he would choose to confess in order to get relief. Now it's up to Chi Huang to see how he plans to deal with it, but they have lost the opportunity and can no longer attack Sunyo Mountain. Thinking of this, Lan Suivendong clenched his fist angrily, slammed the table hard, and left angrily. Princess Wei was startled, came to her senses, and cursed at Lan Suivendong's back. She even beat and scolded the maids who were serving her. Late night. Inside the Xianzheng Hall of the Royal Palace. The emperor was reading the memorial by burning the midnight oil. King Xiaoao entered under the leadership of Dekang. Brother Emperor. The emperor raised his head, put down his ink pen, and said with a hint of sharpness in his cold eyebrows, how? King Xiaoao lowered his eyes and replied respectfully, Shihizi has confessed. It was Lan Suivendong and Lan Suivenhan who ordered him to assassinate Sunyo Shan. If he succeeded, Lan Suivendong would immediately let him go. The relationship between them let the grudge be wiped out. Oh! There is still grudge between them, the emperor spoke calmly, but everyone knew how angry he was. That Shihiza was secretly brought into the capital by people from the Wei tribe, but no one noticed it. King Xiaoao said, Shihiza is a mountain bandit in the southwest region. Wei's envoy met Shihiza who was robbing him on his way to Beijing. They arrested him and tortured him. For some unknown reason, they did not kill Shihiza. He took the man into the city, and Lan Suivendong called him brother and sister along the way. For the first time, Shieko entered Beijing and was fascinated by the Huahua world. Cheng Risu was in the room of the girl of Beihua Tower. The money spent was Lan Suiven's money, and Lan Suivendong did not complain about half a sentence. Because Shihiza stayed in Beihua Tower after entering the capital and never entered the inn, the soldiers did not notice it. Seeing that Princess Yongyang was getting married soon, Lan Suivendong couldn't sit still and went to Hongfengjai to meet Shihizi and talk to him. Reach an agreement. It happened that Shihiza was fascinated by the girl Du Wan from Beihualu, and a wealthy businessman also wanted to redeem the girl Duan. Tonight, Shihiza was afraid that someone would get there first, so he acted in a hurry and planned to kill Sun Yuashan and take him with him. Girl Cuckoo left the capital. His evil deeds in the southwest were always unfavorable, except for the last time when he underestimated the enemy and was captured. He was arrogant, and afraid of death. Lan Suivendong was wrong this time. The emperor sneered and stared at the candlelight in the palace for a while, then slowly said, "Keep Shihiza for now. This person is useful. Let's put this matter aside for the time being. We will send some more things over to Promise Mountain and let the imperial doctor go there look." Yes. King Xiaoao left the Xianzheng hall, exhaled for no reason, shook his head, and quickly disappeared into the night. Early the next morning, as soon as Zhang Ning came out of the inner courtyard, he saw King Xiaoao sitting in her pavilion enjoying the cool weather. She stepped forward, frowned and asked, "Did you catch the murderer?" "That's right. Don't even look at who I am." King Xiaoao shook the skin of melon seeds on his body and said, "The matter cannot be dealt with for the time being. Just know it yourself. The emperor also knows that Sun Yuashan will be wrong this time. Yes, someone has been sent to deliver the items." Zhang Ning's face was calm and his fists gradually clenched. Seeing her suffocating look, King Xiaoao reminded him helplessly, "Those who achieve great things do not stick to trivial matters. You are also a minister of Guanjin now, and you must be able to understand his concerns. Don't we all say that a gentleman does not take revenge for 10 years, is it too late? Be patient, you will definitely have a chance in the future." Zhang Ning rarely quarreled with King Xiaoao. He was a little surprised, but he was not as provocative as before. Zhang Ning saw off Queen Xiaoao and went to Su Mansion again. Sun Yuashan's complexion is much better than yesterday. The wound was a little deep, but fortunately it did not continue to ooze blood. Coupled with the golden sore medicine given by the palace, there was a faint tendency to heal. Zhang Ning also breathed a sigh of relief. Sun Yuashan suddenly knelt down in front of her and said, "Auntie, my mother-in-law should be arriving tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. Can you please help me hide my injury?" Zhang Ning hesitated. "I don't have to mention it, but since this matter is such a big deal, they will know about it sooner or later. It doesn't matter, as long as they see that I am safe and sound. They will be sad for a while when they find out afterwards, which is better than being frightened when they first come to the capital," Sun Yan explained carefully. Hearing this, Zhang Ning could only nod in agreement. The hour of the next day. The carriage of Guang'an Marquis finally slowly approached the city gate. End of chapter. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 434. Butler Song watched from a distance, feeling excited. He quickly pushed a young boy beside him and asked him to go back and report the news. They stayed to pick up people. Wait until the carriage arrived at the city gate. Butler Song has already led the people forward to salute. Second young madam, Miss, Madam asked the younger one to come over and take the masters back to the house. Sun Yan lifted the curtains and took a look, nodded to Butler Song, and quickly looked away. The carriage was put into the city after strict inspection. Yang Xiao asked in confusion in the carriage, "Steward Song, what happened in the capital? Why is the interrogation so strict?" Butler Song had just received Zhang Ning's advice and did not dare to tell the truth at all. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and said, "Miss, Princess Yongyang and the prince consort are getting married soon. More and more people have come to Beijing recently, so naturally in the city it's about martial law." Yang Xiao nodded understandingly. Mrs. Zhou excitedly grabbed Sun Yan's wrist. "Yan, did you hear it? The martial law was put in place for your eldest brother to get married." She never dared to dream that her son's marriage would be such a grand event. Sun Yan twitched the corner of his mouth, not wanting to displease Mrs. Zhou, so he vaguely nodded in agreement. holding the child in his arms, coaxing him while being distracted. The carriage stopped quickly, and Butler Song's voice came from outside, "Second young madam, Miss, Madam Sue, are here." A group of people were helped out of the carriage. Mrs. Joe looked at the spectacular gate of the home mansion and was a little frightened. "Yan Yan, is this the mansion that the emperor rewarded the Yang family?" Sun Yan nodded. "Auntie, let's go in first. It's just a change of place, but the person remains the same, so don't panic." Mrs. Joe's body obviously relaxed a little. As soon as the group crossed the gate, Jiangning led others out. "Mom, I've been looking forward to the stars and the moon, and finally I brought you here." "Oh. Grandma's babies Mui and Jing'er are here too." Jiangning happily picked up Yang Mui and kissed her several times. "The little girl's white and tender face is so easy to nibble on, come again." Jiangning hugged her granddaughter and made a fuss together, which made the grandson next to her jealous. They all pestered her to hug her too. She quickly put down her granddaughter, picked up her grandson, and kissed her several times before the children let her go. Mrs. Joe was filled with envy as she looked at her. "That's great. You have children and grandchildren around you." Jiangning smiled and said, "You're coming soon. Let's go inside to talk. It's still very hot outside." As soon as the group of people entered the house, the maid presented them with tea and snacks. Mrs. Joe waited for a while but didn't see Sun Yuashan, so she couldn't help but ask, "Where is Ashan?" "I've asked Santi and the others to call over. Since the emperor granted the marriage, I've lent a sum of money to Yuashan and asked him to buy a courtyard in the capital. It's a bit far from there, so we have to wait a while." Jiangning pretended to be relaxed and said, all the time playing with the grandson in his arms, not making eye contact with Mrs. Joe. Madame Joe finally felt at ease and asked impatiently, "Aning, how much money did you lend Ashan?" "I came here this time and brought all the belongings with me, and I will help him pay it back. Don't worry. We can talk about these things later." Not too late. Jiangning didn't care. However, Madame Joe refused and began to dig through the baggage around her. "It's one thing after another, but you can't delay the money you owe. I gave Xiaokayu the shop in Kuzhu Prefecture, and even the methods for making snacks. I taught her everything, and she gave me 2,000 taels, as well as the money I've saved over the years. I don't know if it's enough." "Enough? That house has 3 entrances. It's quite spacious, but it's a bit far away from Zuk Street. King Xiaoao helped pull the strings and spent 3,000 taels to buy it. Ashan will come soon. You can go back with him and take a look." Jiangning hurriedly make a promise and wink. Sun Yan took action, took out 3,000 taels from Madame Joe's baggage, and took back the other things. Mrs. Joe watched silently and couldn't help, but she felt a little panicked. It's not that it's not easy to live in the capital, but why is it that the 3-bedroom house only costs 3,000 taels? "And Ning, don't secretly supplement us just to help us." Jiangning was happy. "Am I the kind of person who takes advantage of me? That house used to be owned by a wealthy businessman. He owed the prince some money for business, and he wanted to raise more capital to go out for business, so he took us 3,000 taels. If you want to talk about losses, it is also the prince who suffered some losses. I have already told the prince, but the prince does not care. When he is generous and generous, he simply treats money as dirt. He also said that he appreciates Ashan's talent and does not want to care about it. As he is a relative of the emperor, he really doesn't care about this little money. If we continue to pester him, it will make us look petty, so I asked Ashan not to mention it again. I will repay this kindness when the prince needs him in the future." Mrs. Joe was deceived by Jiangning and really did not continue to dwell on this topic. After 2 cups of tea, the voices of Yang Santi and others were finally heard outside. Mrs. Joe stood up excitedly and rushed towards the son whom she longed for. "Ashan! Grandma has finally met you." Sun Yuashan held Mrs. Zhou's arm with her backhand and avoided the injured area without leaving a trace. Auntie, has the journey been smooth? Where is my sister? Are you all okay? Sun Yan nodded with a smile, his eyes full of joy. We are fine. Before she finished speaking, she saw Ayana coming in with Sun Yuashan. Her face changed slightly, and in order to see clearly, her eyes almost glued to Ayana. Ayana also immediately noticed Sun Yan's eyes, tilted her head, and asked in confusion, why is the second young madam looking at me like this? Sun Yan came back to his senses and looked dazed for a few times. You are? Zhang Ning explained gently, I bought this, her name is Ayana. She was only 8 years old when she came to our house. She was thin and small, and was very capable of getting into trouble. I thought she was a pitiful child, so I kept her by my side. Yang Xiao remembered the time when Ayana first came to the house, covered her mouth and smiled. At that time, she was still holding my mother in her arms, calling me mom all the time, and she was very attached to my mother, so I took her with me like a younger sister. Damn, it's been a while since I last saw her, and she's already taller than me. Second sister-in-law, do you think Ayana doesn't look Han? Sun Yan looked away and nodded slightly, it's true. He doesn't look like a Han Chinese. Yang Xiao looked at Ayana and asked with a smile, can you tell me where you come from now? Ayana shook her head decisively, held the whip in her hand, and said stubbornly, I am from the Yang family. Yes, 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 Yang Xiao followed her words and her tone was very doting. Mrs. Zhou only looked at Ayana curiously for a few times, then turned her attention to her son and asked many questions. When she learned that Zhang Ning had prepared all the betrothal gifts and carried them into the palace, she thanked her again. Zhang Ning saw that she was a little tired and asked, do you want to stay with me for a rest first and then go back with Ashen later, or go back to Su Mansion directly with Ashen? I'll just go back with Ashen. I can't trouble you anymore, Mrs. Zhou couldn't wait. End of chapter. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 435. Sun Yan knew that Anyang had many things to ask her eldest brother privately, so she took the initiative to let them go. In a carriage. Without the outsiders around, Mrs. Zhou subconsciously grabbed Sun Yuashan's arm. Sun Yuashan was in pain, his face was painful, big cold sweat broke out one by one, and his lips suddenly lost color. Ms. Zhou was startled, subconsciously let go of her hand, and asked, what's wrong with you? As she spoke, her eyes fell from Sun Yuashan to Chi-Mo. Chi-Mo lowered his head and sat outside the car curtain, not daring to say a word at all. Mrs. Zhou's tears fell instantly. Did something happen? Mother and son were connected, and Sun Yuashan knew at this moment that he couldn't hide it, so he weakly comforted, Auntie, I'm fine, just my arm was a little injured. The doctor and the imperial doctor in the palace have looked at it, and even little sister Xiahua has been given to me. After diagnosis and treatment, he will be fine as long as he takes good care of himself for a while. You're injured and you still say it's okay, Madame Zhou began to wipe away her tears. I originally thought that you would become the #1 scholar and marry a princess. As long as you stayed honest and peaceful, you would be rich and wealthy for the rest of your life. I didn't need to worry about this. It's only been a while, why did you get hurt? Tell me honestly, who hurt you, and I will seek justice for you. She subconsciously believed that the dignitaries in the capital took action because they could not see the promise of Shan Hao. Sun Yuashan shook his head, Mom, it's okay. The emperor already knows about this matter. The emperor will make the decision for me. Don't ask. Seeing that her son was keeping secrets and that there were some strange guards accompanying him, Mrs. Zhou had to shut her mouth and said instead, then I will go back and check on your wound, patch it up for you, and don't go out during this period. Also, I have already paid back the 3,000 taels you owed to your mother-in-law, and I will repay the debt to the prince later when I have the ability. And Ning said that this matter cannot be rushed. Sun Yuashan was a little surprised. Auntie, where did you get so much money? Madame Zhou sighed, I sold out the shop and exchanged it for 2,000 taels. I only left the small courtyard in Fukan and the fields on Zhuangzi. Not to mention the other things, I relied on the income from Zhuangzi. You can earn 100 or so taels of silver. In addition, there are more than 2,000 taels of silver saved over the years. After paying back 3,000 taels, there are still more than 1,000 taels. I don't know if it will be enough for you to spend in the capital. She had inquired on the way, and found out that wealthy families also needed to maintain guards and other services, and the monthly payment for all servants, large and small, would cost more than 10 taels or even dozens of taels per month. Ah Shan, do you think it's okay if I come to the capital and open a dessert shop? Madame Zhou asked with a frown. Sun Yuashan put on a pale smile and said, if you like it, Grandma, you can do it. Anyway, you have Alan by your side. When the time comes, I will buy 2 maids to take care of you. You can do whatever you want. Mrs. Zhou breathed a sigh of relief. The carriage stopped outside the gate of Su Mansion. Zhou Niang helped Sun Yuashan get out of the car carefully. She looked at the high gate compound in front of her, her lips never moved. The child's father, have you seen it? This is our family, our Su family. The group entered the house and the housekeeper closed the door. Mrs. Zhou didn't bother to look at her own yard, so she looked at Sun Yuashan's injuries first. Fortunately, the wounds healed better today than yesterday, and it wasn't scary at all. She could still hold on. It was only after Sun Yuashan had reapplied the medicine that Madame Zhou asked about the betrothal gift. Sun Yoshan 1510 said, my aunt helped me buy the betrothal gift, but the money was given by the queen. My aunt used all the money given by the queen, and made up for herself a few gorgeous sets of hair and face. She is a member of the 3 Iron clan. I brought it back from outside the customs. The sets of heads and faces made by my sister were estimated to be worth 8,000 taels. When the queen saw them, she was very happy upon hearing this. Mrs. Zhou was happy but also melancholy. In this way, we owe Yang. It's even harder to repay family favors. Sun Yuashan held Madame Zhou's hand with his backhand. Auntie, don't worry. Although Santi is an official now, it is only temporary. He said that he will go to do business in a year or 2, and he also said that we can join the team. I made an agreement with him early to give it a try when the time comes. He had never realized that money was so important before coming to the capital. Now that he really realized that a penny is difficult for a hero, he naturally had to think of some serious ways to make money. Mrs. Zhou stopped worrying at all when she saw that her son had taken everything into consideration. In the Guanzhenhou mansion, Zhang Ning arranged a table of wine and food for his daughter-in-law and daughter to wash away the dust. The 2 of them went back to rest after eating. Sun Yan thought about Ayana and tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep. However, it was her first time in the capital, so she couldn't ask too many questions, so she could only figure it out slowly. After a few days of adjustment, Sun Yan was able to recover. She also contacted Ayana several times intentionally or unintentionally to confirm that the girl really couldn't remember too many things before she was abducted, or that she had almost forgotten. After 2 years of suffering in the hands of Ren Yazi, he stayed at the Yang family peacefully and occasionally returned to the Dong family, unable to find out anything at all. She was sitting in the pavilion in a daze when Yang Xiahua came in with a medicine box. Sister Yan, what are you thinking about? Sun Yan came to her senses and said, we are almost a family, so what else can we call sister? Just call me second sister-in-law. I was just thinking about my eldest brother, Princess Shang. There is always a reason why he was assassinated without incident. I thought about it and it should have something to do with Lord Shang. Yang Xiahua paused and sat down silently. Second sister-in-law, just think about it for yourself. Don't yell. The water behind you is very deep. But if you make such a fuss, no one will dare to assassinate Brother Su again. By the way, I see that the second sister-in-law is very interested in Ayana these days, but have you asked about her life experience? Sun Yan shook his head. I just came to the capital. How can I know as much as you do? I'm just curious about foreign women. Yang Xiahua nodded slightly, smiled, and said, I have been in contact with Ayana for a while, and I really like her true temperament. If possible, I also hope to help her find her family as soon as possible. Ayana's appearance is too special. Most families will not accept foreign girls. Only by returning to the place where she was born and finding the same tribe can her future be protected. The two of them had different thoughts and said no more. The day of marriage arrived at Sunyo Mountain. The Su mansion was decorated with lanterns and colorful decorations early. In order to support the Su family, the Yang family even lent a lot of valuable ornaments. The princess's honor guard started from the harem, went around in a circle, knelt down and bowed to the emperor outside the Xianzheng Hall, and then left the palace. The two sides of Zuk Street were crowded with people watching the excitement. Many people envied Sun Yuashan for becoming the prince-in-law. Lan Sui Venhan stood in a private room facing the street on the second floor. He held a bow in his hand and made a shooting motion. Hey! Brother, do you want to come? The emperor had clearly found out that they were behind the scenes, but he never said a word. This also fueled Lan Sui Venhan's arrogance. As long as he killed Sun Yuashan, Princess Yongyang would not be able to marry. End of chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 436. Lan Suivendong put down the cup coldly and asked in a low voice, is Ishijiro still missing? Lan Suivendhan's face instantly darkened. He sat down angrily, banged the table and cursed, I don't know whether he was killed by Emperor Qi or imprisoned. We have inquired in private, but there is no news. As he spoke, Lan Suivendhan leaned forward and asked in a low voice, Brother, do you think Emperor Qi wants to settle accounts with the Queen? Lan Suivendong sighed and shook his head, I don't know, but I always feel uneasy. Don't act rashly at this time. Marriage is just a means, the ultimate goal is to legitimately use the Suanwu cauldron as a deal, so that the Emperor of Qi can send troops to help them seize the land 50 miles north of Jinggu City outside the pass. If there is not Princess Wei who interferes, things will not be so troublesome. However, the king also gave many instructions to them to take good care of the princess and put her first in everything. He really couldn't figure it out. Princess Yanjiang's dowry arrived all the way to Su Mansion. At this time, the Su Mansion was already full of guests. Regardless of whether they had interacted with Sun Yuashan or not, they all came to the door with gifts to congratulate him. It was the first time that Mrs. Zhou saw so many noble people. She didn't know where to turn her eyes, so she could only ask Zhang Ning for help. Ning, will the princess pay homage to me later? Zhang Ning patted Mrs. Zhou's shoulder gently and smiled comfortingly, don't panic, the princess is the king, and we are the ministers. It is only natural that the princess does not worship you. If the princess worships you, you have to help her up quickly. You can't really let the princess worship. Mrs. Zhou seemed to understand, but she only knew that Zhang Ning would not harm her and she would do whatever Zhang Ning said. Looking at so many dowries, she couldn't help but asked in a low voice, how much is the princess's dowry? Zhang Ning explained, the palace gave me 360 pieces. In addition, the emperor also rewarded me with a princess's mansion. Some large items cannot be accommodated in Su's mansion, so I put them in the princess's mansion first. That. Before Mrs. Joe could speak, the princess's guard of honor had already arrived outside the Su mansion. Mammy shouted loudly. Under the guidance of the etiquette officer, Sun Yuashan stepped forward and led Princess Yongyang down. The two of them stepped over the brazier and entered the hall to salute. The officials were handled according to the ancestral system, and there was no such thing as paying homage to Mrs. Joe. Mrs. Joe breathed a sigh of relief, and was a little disappointed at the same time, but she quickly put it behind her and happily watched the newlyweds enter the bridal chamber. At this point, Princess Yongyang has completely become the wife of the Su family. After she and Sun Yuashan drank Hexen wine, everyone in the room breathed a sigh of relief, and the smiles on their faces became a little more relieved. Sun Yuashan didn't know why, but didn't think much about it. He stood up and bowed respectfully, saying, "Princess, there are still guests in the front yard who need to be entertained. I will come when I leave." Princess Yongyang nodded, and after Sun Yuashan left, she immediately looked at Mammy beside her. "Mammy, how are the Su family? Don't think that she is not worried because she is a princess. After all, she married into the Su family to avoid getting married. Even if the Su family is not easy to get along with, she has to find a way to create a harmonious atmosphere and let her father know that she is living a good life and no longer to get her idea. Of course, she must hurry up and get pregnant with the child." Mammy smiled from ear to ear and said, "Princess, don't worry, the prince consort is gentle and considerate of everything. Mrs. Su looks like the kind of country woman who comes from the countryside and has no knowledge. She is simple and honest. Don't worry." Princess Yongyang breathed a sigh of relief, and there was a bit of a smile on her face. However, after a moment, she frowned angrily. "The prince-in-law was assassinated. My father has obviously found out the person behind it but did not deal with it. It is most likely Wu Ya the envoy has done a good deed, and if he cannot give an explanation to his consort, I want to live a good life with him, but I am afraid that he will feel uncomfortable in his heart." She had just gotten married, and she already had a lot to worry about. Mammy was stunned for a moment, and then comforted her dryly. "It shouldn't be the case. The prince-in-law is a sensible person at first glance, and he will definitely be considerate of the princess." Humph. This kind of nonsense is enough to deceive outsiders. There is no need to fool yourself. Nanny, just wait. When father gets the Suan Wu cauldron, I will make envoy Wu Ya's life worse than death, Princess Yongyang said fiercely. She clenched her fists. This tone was not only for Sun Yuashan, but also for herself. Mammy wished she was deaf and didn't dare to answer this question at all. The excitement in the front yard of Su's mansion didn't end until dark. Sun Yuashan was in a hurry to go back to the new house to meet the princess. The affairs in the front yard were left to Mrs. Joe, Zhongning, and Sun Yan. The three of them saw off the last guest, patted their stiff faces and asked the housekeeper to close the door. Zhongning saw that nothing happened without her, so he immediately left with his people, promising to stay and help Mrs. Joe. Be busy and time flies by. People are still talking about the grand occasion of Princess Yanjiang's wedding, but in a blink of an eye, the day comes when Princess Wei marries Cheng Hong. At this time, everyone's eyes were focused on the princess's dowry, wanting to see the true appearance of the Suan Wu Ding. In order to ensure the safety of the Suan Wu cauldron, the emperor asked Wei Guangxian to lead a group of imperial guards out of the palace in advance to the princess to dowry. Inside the inn, Wei Guangxian looked at the big thing that was placed on the bullock cart and covered with red silk cloth, and a dark light flashed in his eyes. "Is this the Suan Wu cauldron?" Lan Suivendong raised his chest and nodded slightly proudly. "Exactly. This tripod was taken down from the altar where our tribe worships. It is the most precious treasure of our Wu tribe." Wei Guangxian's cheeks twitched slightly. "Mr. Lan Sui, I would like to remind you that the Suan Wu cauldron belongs to our Qi kingdom. If the emperor didn't want to go to war and waste money and people, why would there be such a need to go to such trouble, don't you think? Lan Suivendong's face stiffened, he snorted coldly, and muttered, "That's because you are too incompetent to throw the thing away. We got it from a legitimate way, which means that the Suan Wuading is destined to our Wei tribe. It is our Wei tribe. Tribal." Wei Guangxian's face darkened, and he did not argue with Lan Suivendong. Instead, he waved his hand and said, "From now on, when guarding the Suanwu cauldron for 12 hours, our people and people from the Wei tribe must be present at the same time, indispensable." Lan Suivendong sneered, "Master Wei, you are too careful. This is the capital, and this is the Suanwu cauldron. It is not a small thing. Can you still carry it and run away? It's always good to be cautious." Wei Guangxian's face was calm and his attitude was unquestionable. Lan Suivendong felt bored and said, "It's up to you." After saying that, he turned around and left. In the courtyard of Princess Wei, there was a flurry of excitement. "I won't marry, I won't marry, I will die in front of anyone who forces me to marry." Lan Suivendong paused as he entered the courtyard, his face turned cold, and he yelled loudly, "Princess! Do you want to kill everyone?" Princess Wei turned around, looked at the visitor with tears in her eyes, and stamped her feet on the table. "I don't care, I just won't marry that Cheng Hong. A sensual and sensual is not worthy of me at all." End of chapter. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 437. She knew from the beginning that Cheng Hong was not a good person, but she had always believed that Lan Suivendong and the others would clear the obstacles for her, so she felt confident. But now that she was about to get married, Lan Suivendong still had no choice. Emperor Qi also sent with the arrival of the Praetorian guards. Her hope of rejecting the marriage became increasingly slim. Lan Suivendong looked at the messy house and said without changing his expression, "Princess, the matter has come to this, you can only get married honestly. In fact, it's okay if you don't marry. We can't offend Emperor Qi, so we still need to take the Suan Wuading stay. You can come back to Wei tribe with us, but are you willing? You haven't seen the environment outside the customs yet. The sky is filled with yellow sand, the day is as hot as a stove, and the night is as cold as the 12th lunar month of winter. We have no fixed place to live, and we have to be on guard against raids from other tribes at any time. If we really can't survive, we don't have to travel thousands of miles. It's been a long journey to the capital. Marrying to the capital is the best destination for you. At least you can live a life of glory and wealth. Although the conditions of the Cheng family cannot be compared with those of the royal family, the palace has already decided to prepare a generous betrothal gift for you. Those are all. We won't take yours away. With those things, it's not you who has the final say when it comes to the Cheng family. If you don't marry Cheng Hong, no one in the capital will dare to marry you. No, it should be said that no one in the entire Qi state will be willing to marry you. You must also know the price of refusing to marry." "Ah!" Princess Wei screamed up to the sky unwillingly, overturned the table, and then fell to the ground weakly. Lan Suivendong glanced at her lightly and turned around to go out. Outside the door, Lan Suivenhan followed Lan Suivendong and asked in a low voice, "Brother, will the princess really marry honestly? I see that she is making such a fuss, something might happen tomorrow." Lan Suivendong shook his head expressionlessly, "She can't. No matter how miserable the Cheng family is, it's better to stay in the capital than to go back to the outside world with us. Besides, she has no better choice, right?" Lan Suivenhan rubbed his chin and thought, "It's true. That woman is the most selfish. She will definitely not do anything detrimental to herself. She just ignores some things. After all, she is their princess, and they naturally hope that the princess can marry the king. There may be other good fortunes in the future, which will only be good for the Wei tribe and not bad. It is a pity. Lan Suivendong frowned. Okay, don't talk about those who have some and those who don't. Wei Guangxian and his people are guarding the princess's betrothal gift, and our people are not allowed to leave. There is still no conclusion on Shihee's matter. You let the people below. People should be strict with their mouths and don't say anything out loud. Lan Sui Venhan hurriedly nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. This side of the Cheng family. The wedding of the son that Kui Yudi has longed for is finally coming. In the past few days, she has been feeling windy when she went out, wishing that everyone would know that her son was going to marry a princess. Even Cheng Jiaojiao has regained some confidence. Because of the emperor's reprimand, some of the little sisters who played well with her stopped interacting with her. In the past few days, someone actually took the initiative to give her something and explain this. The reason for the lack of contact seemed to be an excuse at first glance, but since the other party was willing to find excuses to make up for it, Cheng Jiaojiao felt relieved. After all, it is impossible for a person to live without a friend, and besides, she needs someone to show off to. So Cheng Jiaojiao immediately wrote letters to those ladies, inviting them to visit Cheng's house. In Yishao Hall, Aunt Sun squeezed Mrs. Cheng's shoulders and patted her back, and murmured angrily, "Mother, look at my sister and the eldest lady. Their tails have been raised to the sky in the past few days. The eldest young master is getting married tomorrow, and they are not tight now in view of tomorrow's important event. We are still greeting guests, it's really." Although Aunt Sun was jealous that Cheng Hong could marry a princess, and she was even more jealous that Cheng Hong had help from the palace in preparing the betrothal gift, she was jealous. She also knew that everyone would be prosperous, and everyone would suffer loss. She arranged Cheng Hong's marriage so that her son would be better in the future. It's easy to say that she was annoyed when she saw the behavior of Kui Yudi and her daughter. Mrs. Cheng was also angry and rubbed her eyebrows vigorously. "What can you do if you tell me this? She is not afraid of me now. When I told her, she said that her son was going to marry a princess, and there would be a princess in the future. Support her, I can't afford to offend an old woman." Mrs. Cheng had a slumped face. She was very angry, but it was useless no matter how angry she was, because her good son said that she would let Kui Yudi go first and wait for the princess to come in. Aunt Sun saw that Mrs. Cheng had a wrong look on her face, rolled her eyes, and immediately smiled and said, "Mom, don't be angry, I just can't bear to say anything. Anyway, it's my sister's son who is marrying, and she is not in a hurry. She must have done everything well." Preparation. Mrs. Cheng sighed and said nothing. This day, Kui Yudi kept greeting several ladies, and it was not until dusk that she had time to ask about tomorrow's affairs. Hence, there were roars coming from the main courtyard. "The eldest young master is getting married tomorrow. Now you are telling me that the wedding dress has not been changed yet, the banquet has not been prepared, and no one wants to do it." Kui Yudi pointed at the servants headed by the housekeeper and scolded him. The housekeeper was very aggrieved and said, "Madam, I have asked a few famous restaurants in the capital to hold a wedding banquet for a minimum of 500 taels. This is still the most common configuration. If there are more tables and more expensive items, there are more than just these dishes, which cost thousands of taels. Just give me a budget of 300 taels, which is far from enough. I have wanted to tell you about this several times today, but my wife has been unwilling to leave our guests. I really have no choice." Kui Yudi was stunned for a moment, and immediately retorted loudly, "I have no time, wouldn't you go find the master and the old lady? Could it be that I am the only master left in this family?" The housekeeper made a sad face and said, "Madam, have you forgotten? You have already emptied all the valuable things in Yishao Hall. The old lady can't afford so much money. And for this kind of thing, the old lady you can't make the decision either. The master was demoted before. During this period, he has been idle at home. There has been no results from the Ministry of Official Affairs. The master is also panicked and has been walking around. He also left home early today and has not returned home yet. Kui Yudi was angry that the housekeeper didn't let her step down, and angrily said, "In short, you are not doing things well, and you will be fined 1 month's salary, so get out of here." The servants walked out obediently with drooped faces, not daring to say anything. After leaving the main courtyard, many people began to curse. Cheng Dongjiang was exhausted after walking outside for a day. When he came back, he found out that tomorrow's wedding banquet had not yet been arranged. He was so angry that he started fighting with Kui Yudi on the spot, which made Mrs. Cheng come over. "What's the fuss about? What's the fuss about?" Mrs. Cheng glared at Kui Yudi fiercely. Cheng Dongjiang immediately complained, "Mother, you came just in time. Hong'er is getting married tomorrow. As a mother, she hasn't even decided on the wedding banquet yet. She is justified." "What?" Mrs. Cheng looked at Kui Yudi in disbelief, her voice changed, "Ms. Kui. The person getting married tomorrow is your biological son." End of this chapter. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 438. Chapter 438 No Choice. Kui Yudi immediately put all the responsibility on the servant. "I handed over the matter long ago. If the servant doesn't do the job with all his heart, what does it have to do with me?" Cheng Dongjiang laughed angrily, "Okay. Then sell off all the servants in the house. There is no need to keep such useless servants anyway." He knew very well that those servants were chosen by Kui Yudi and stayed after they were in line with her wishes. If the fault was really the fault of the servants, Kui Yudi would be the first to deal with them without him having to say anything. Now, but he only made noises and made no mention of killing people and selling them, which was obviously a guilty conscience. "You," Kui Yudi was angry and pointed at Cheng Dongjiang angrily, "Okay. Then sell them all. Anyway, it's already like this. It doesn't matter if there is no one to entertain guests tomorrow. Isn't it just a matter of comparing who can keep calm?" She didn't believe Cheng Dongjiang could bear it. Sure enough, Cheng Dongjiang was furious, and his resentful eyes were fixed on Kui Yudi, and the couple refused to let anyone go. After a long time, Cheng Dongjiang slowly closed his eyes and personally called the housekeeper over to understand the situation. Kui Yudi smiled proudly, as if laughing at the Cheng family's overestimation of their capabilities. The housekeeper was trembling and explained the situation clearly, but he was also afraid of causing complications and did not mention Kui Yudi's whole day of socializing. Cheng Dongjiang pondered, "You mean the money madam gave you is not enough?" Yes, the housekeeper glanced at Kui Yudi secretly, and then quickly lowered his eyes. Cheng Dongjiang sneered and said, "It's really interesting. After pawning the things that madam moved from various courtyards in the house, she still had 400 or 500 taels. Adding in the money saved in the house, she couldn't make up 500 taels." With that said, he rushed out before Kui Yudi could react. When Kui Yudi reacted, he saw Cheng Dongjiang appearing carrying a locked box. Mrs. Cheng has not yet reacted. Kui Yudi went crazy first, and rushed forward like crazy to the box. "Cheng Dongjiang, my body is all in there, you are not allowed to touch it. If you dare to take it away from me, I will go to the government tomorrow to sue you." Cheng Dongjiang smiled ferociously and said, "Okay. You go and sue, and we will die together. No one will have an easy time." With a sound of bang, Cheng Dongjiang lifted the box high and smashed it against the edge of the stone steps. All the gold, silver, and jewelry were scattered on the ground. Mrs. Cheng's eyes widened when she saw those things. "Ms. Kui. You have so many things, yet you, an old woman like me, cry out that you are penniless. There are more than a dozen or dozens of tails of gold hairpins pawned." Kui Yudi rushed forward, guarding the things tightly. "It's all mine. It's all my dowry. No one is allowed to touch it. Cheng Dongjiang stepped forward, raised his foot fiercely, and kicked Kui Yudi to the ground. This scene happened to be seen by Cheng Jiaojiao and Cheng Hong, who hurried over. The two of them rushed over, one protecting Kui Yudi and the other stopping Cheng Dongjiang. Father, if you have something to say, why should you get angry? No matter how bad my mother is, she is still the mistress of the Cheng family. The princess is going to get married tomorrow. If my mother shows her hurt, the princess will definitely be upset, Cheng Hero begged humbly. Cheng Jiaojiao protected Kui Yudi while picking up things and didn't even bother to talk. For the sake of his son, Cheng Dongjiang actually relaxed a bit. He stepped forward, picked up the tickets, looked at them carefully, and said coldly, "Those things in the house were pawned for 485 taels. I took 485 taels from here, as proof. If you want to make a fuss, I will fight to the end." "No. That's my money, you can't take it." Kui Yudi staggered over and grabbed Cheng Dongjiang's clothes tightly. "Mother, forget it, forget it." Cheng Jiaojiao was extremely frightened and quickly spoke out to persuade her. "No. You have no idea how much the mansion's annual expenses are. Without this money, you won't be able to make clothes for the 4 seasons." Kui Yudi pinched Cheng Jiaojiao's painful foot. Cheng Jiaojiao immediately fell silent. Cheng Dongjiang snorted coldly, pulled out the corner of his clothes, and ignored the selfish mother and daughter on the ground. Then he came to the housekeeper and ordered, "Bring the 300 taels that the madam gave you." Kui Yudi suddenly screamed, "Don't take it. Cheng Dongjiang. You have already taken away nearly 500 taels, and you still want to take 300 taels. I tell you, if you dare to take it away, I will die for you." She had just thought about it, and if it didn't work out, she would take back the 300 taels from the housekeeper, which would help her recover some losses. Unexpectedly, Cheng Dongjiang blocked all her planned escape routes. The housekeeper is in a dilemma. Cheng Dongjiang sneered, "Okay. Then you go and die. Hong'er will be in mourning tomorrow, so the princess doesn't need to be married. It's not a bad idea to turn the wedding banquet into a funeral banquet." "You," Kui Yudi was so angry that her blood surged and her eyes were bloodshot. The housekeeper took a look and knew that the master was determined to take care of his wife today, so he could only take out the 300 taels like a quail. If he looked up, he could see that Kui Yudi looked at him with a look that made her want to eat him. Cheng Dongjiang got nearly 800 taels of silver and went out without caring about the mess at home. At this time, the big restaurants are still closed, and some of the thriving restaurants in the capital are still full of customers. He went to Yangta restaurant as quickly as possible to discuss the banquet with the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper was very shocked. "Master Cheng, isn't your master going to marry Princess Wei tomorrow? Why did you book a table now? It's not like he hasn't asked about it before. After all, one big order like this can make the restaurants profit for several days." But after asking around, he couldn't get the exact information. He thought it was something else planned by the palace. "I stopped paying attention. I never thought that this big deal would fall on their Yangta restaurant, but it was a bit embarrassing." Cheng Dongjiang was a little embarrassed, but his face was calm. It happened for a reason, and it was a helpless move. "I wonder if the shopkeeper can take it? How much money will it cost?" Here the shopkeeper was a little embarrassed. "Mr. Cheng, if you had come 2 days earlier, I would have prepared everything for you, so that you can save money and have a good time. But we have to make a banquet tomorrow." "You now only then did he say that he could not prepare so many ingredients in such a short time. And it is difficult to arrange chefs in restaurants in a hurry. Moreover, the cost will be more expensive. I am telling you the truth because I see you are anxious. Looking at all the restaurants in Beijing, the only ones who dare to take orders from you at this time are our Yangta restaurant, Beiwei restaurant, Qinshiju, and Juxian restaurant. You also know Qinshiju and Juxian Tower. They are ridiculously expensive and only accept dignitaries. If you want to find them, you must prepare at least several thousand taels. Baiwolo is better, but I heard that Wei envoy seems not used to the food at Baiwolo. Tomorrow your family is holding a wedding event, and Wei envoy will definitely come there. It would be unpalatable if they were allowed to eat it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fensti. Chapter 439. Chapter 439 Scarier Than Ghosts. Chen Dongjiang naturally knew these situations and came to Yangta restaurant after weighing the pros and cons. Since everyone is as clear as day, he doesn't want to beat around the bush. Shopkeeper, just tell me how much money it costs to host 50 tables. The shopkeeper nodded respectfully and invited Chen Dongjiang to the private room on the second floor. Master Chen, please sit down and drink tea first. I'll invite our young master to come over and discuss with you. Shea Dongjia. Before Chen Dongjiang could be confused, a handsome man in his 20s appeared in front of him. Gong Haining had known Chen Dongjiang's identity for a long time, and as soon as he entered the door, he clasped his fists and bowed warmly. Mr. Chen, I have long admired my name. Gong Haining is the young owner of Yangta restaurant. What you just said to the shopkeeper is already clear to me. Chen Dongjiang breathed a sigh of relief and asked calmly, the young master, maybe we can arrange a banquet tomorrow. Gong Haining smiled thoughtfully, of course it's not a problem, but the shopkeeper should have told Mr. Chen just now that the time is short and the cost will be higher. Seeing Chen Dongjiang frowning, Gong Haining understood and changed the topic, but we don't have no countermeasures. Oh, what can Sheadong's family do? Chen Dongjiang suddenly became interested. Gong Haining took the opportunity to express his thoughts. For 50 tables, if we follow the minimum configuration of 10 taels per table, it will cost 500 taels. As you know, in our Yangta restaurant, the price of each dish is different according to different portions. Compare if you make it for a banquet, it must be larger than the normal portion. I just asked the shopkeeper to do the calculations. An ordinary meat dish on the banquet costs almost 600 taels of silver, that is, chicken, duck, fish and pork. If it is abalone, ginseng, wings, and tripe, the minimum price for a dish is 2 to 3 taels of silver. According to the rules of the capital, 16 dishes are usually prepared for a wedding banquet, including 12 meat dishes, 2 vegetarian dishes, 1 snack, and 1 sweet soup. If the meat dishes are all made of ordinary ingredients, the entire table will cost less than 9 taels. It is definitely enough. Before Chen Dongjiang could breathe a sigh of relief, Gong Haining continued, but Mr. Chen is marrying a princess, and the people who will come to visit tomorrow are all dignitaries. What good things have they not seen? What if the banquet is full of ordinary things? If you don't take any action, there will always be 1 or 2 things in the base handwing belly to barely make it to the table. In this way, the cost of 1 table is about 15 taels, and 50 tables is 750 taels. If you add some good things, then... Chen Dongjiang hurriedly stopped Gong Haining. That's enough. To be honest, I have been an official for many years, and the whole family has relied on my official salary and has not saved much money. 750 taels is already a lot. I understand. I understand it all. Master Chen is pure and honest, and has the breeze on his sleeves. I admire you. Gong Haining's words immediately coaxed Chen Dongjiang to feel comfortable physically and mentally, and also relieved Chen Dongjiang's embarrassment. In that case, let's follow the rule of 15 taels per table, Gong Haining confirmed again. Chen Dongjiang nodded repeatedly and presented the silver. Logically speaking, one should pay a part of the deposit first, and then pay the remaining money after the wedding is completed, but Cheng Dongjiang simply did not dare to take the money he brought out back. He just fought against Kui Yudi with a fierce energy. Kui Yudi will definitely make trouble with him again when he goes back later. He is not sure whether he can still be as strong as before. What if Kui Yudi is killed? If he has the upper hand, the money in his hands will definitely be taken away. Gong Haining was not polite to Cheng Dongjiang either. He was the one who was in trouble for the Cheng family. He had to do things in a short time and needed money. The two parties drew up a contract. Cheng Dongjiang walked out of Yangta restaurant and found that he only had 30 taels left in his arms. He couldn't help but sigh that the money had to be used. In order to prevent Kui Yudi from taking away the 30 taels when he returned, he gritted his teeth and spent all the money. I bought 2 pieces of good material for my old mother, and also bought 2 sets of better quality for treasures of the study, which just used up 30 taels. As soon as he crossed the gate of Cheng Mansion with his things, he was stopped by Kui Yudi and his people who were lurking around. Kui Yudi rushed forward regardless and took the things from Cheng Dongjiang's hands, gritted her teeth and cursed, "You took my money, but I want to see which little goblin you bought things for. I'm not having a good time today, everyone don't even think about living in peace." She fiercely tore off the oil paper. Cheng Dongjiang just stood by and watched, calm and unhurried. Kui Yudi dismantled all the things and found that there were only 2 pieces of good quality material inside that were enough to look at. However, she couldn't use these materials at all. It looked like they belonged to the old lady. The remaining pens, inks, paper and inkstones were all men's things, and they were all men's things. She has nothing to do with it. She was immediately furious and jumped up, "You took more than 700 taels from me and bought such a small amount of rags. My silver, my silver." Facing her question, Cheng Dongjiang said calmly, "We have already booked a banquet for tomorrow, 750 taels. I bought these things for the rest. What's the problem?" Kui Yudi was stunned for a moment, then shouted angrily, "Why does the banquet cost 750 taels? Is it with abalone, ginseng, bear paws or bird's nest, wings and belly? Okay, Cheng Dongjiang, your abilities have not improved as you get older. I'm getting better and better at the evil ways. My little dowry money is so useless. Oh my god, why don't you open your eyes and make the decision for me?" Cheng Dongjiang's face was ashen and he didn't want to pay attention to the embarrassing Kui Yudi. He picked up the things on the ground and strode into the house. Since everyone was gone, Kui Yudi immediately stopped howling and rushed back to the main courtyard with her popularity. That night she was so angry that she didn't sleep all night. She stayed up until dawn and made herself several years older. Then she became anxious and hurriedly asked the maid to help her put on makeup to remedy the situation. She applied a thick layer of lead powder. Finally, "I can't see the original expression, it's just a bit scary." When she went out with a face like that, the servants in the house were frightened to the point of trembling with fear. They had the illusion that they had seen a ghost in the daytime, but they did not dare to show it. Aunt Sun got up early. She originally planned to go to Yishaotang to inquire about what happened last night and what to do next. But when she saw Kui Yudi's face on the way, she was immediately frightened and turned pale. "Ghost? Ah! What's the name of the ghost in the blue sky and white sun? My aunt has done too many bad things." "Ah! Ghost!" Cheng Jiaojiao was so frightened that she backed away even before she finished her words of reprimand. Both of them had the same reaction. Kui Yudi was so angry that she cut off her nails and said, "Ms. Son. Who do you think is a ghost? That ferocious look is more frightening than a ghost." Cheng Jiaojiao subconsciously hugged Aunt Sun. The two of them let out a cry and cried loudly. Cheng Dongjiang rushed over after hearing the news, and was about to reprimand when he was shocked by Kui Yudi's face. "Today is Honger's wedding. After all, you are also a young lady raised by a rich family. Not only should you be polite, but you should also be generous. Appropriate. Look at how you look now. Do you want to scare Princess Wuya to death or scare away today's guests? Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 440. Chapter 440 Meeting. Kui Yudi valued appearance the most. Being so humiliated by the person next to her, she couldn't sit still no matter how thick-skinned she was, and immediately hurried back with the person angrily. Cheng Dongjiang sighed, "My family is unlucky, my family is unlucky. Xiao Xiao, your mother is not decent, you have to take care of yourself." Cheng Xiao was scolded inexplicably, and her face fell instantly. Aunt Sun followed Cheng Dongjiang all the way into Yishao Hall, still looking frightened. "Master, why is my sister getting more and more wrong?" Although Kui Yudi was arrogant in the past, she was not so out of tune. Cheng Dongjiang covered his twitching temples and said, "Perhaps she was severely stimulated yesterday and hasn't recovered yet today. Let her go. In a while, the chef of Yangta restaurant will come to your door with ingredients. Kui's virtue, I can't believe it. I'll leave this matter to you. If you have any questions, report them directly to mother, and she will make the decision." He gave the menu to Mrs. Cheng and Aunt Sun, and read it to them several times. Although they are illiterate, they have their own unique memory methods and quickly memorized the menu. As soon as Cheng Dongjiang left, Aunt Sun immediately took Mrs. Cheng to the kitchen to wait for the people from Yangta restaurant to come over. This side of the front yard. Kui Yudi finally managed to clean herself up and come out to meet people, but she was rejected by Cheng Dongjiang again. "Your face is so ugly on the big day. People who don't know better think you don't want to see the princess." Kui Yudi was furious. "You hate it when I put on makeup, and you still feel bad after I put it on. What's wrong? Do you think I'm old and drowsy now? Why are you making a fuss if I'm talking to you?" Cheng Dongjiang was speechless. In order not to dwell on this topic anymore, he asked, "Is there anyone from the Kui family coming over today?" Kui Yudi's face turned even more ugly when she mentioned this, and she said angrily, "I don't care whether they come or not." That day Kui Boyuan broke off the relationship with her in front of so many people, and even went to the Yamen to sign a document and stamp it. From that day on, in the eyes of outsiders, she was no longer a member of the Kui family. If the Kui family hadn't been so heartless, she wouldn't have had to make such a fuss. The more Kui Yudi thought about it, the angrier she became, and she no longer wanted to talk to Cheng Dongjiang. The auspicious time has not yet arrived, and guests have already arrived one after another. Some of them are the ladies who just met Kui Yudi yesterday. It has only been a day, and Kui Yudi's face is so bad that everyone has to murmur in his heart. And then send someone to inquire quietly. The wedding team hasn't returned yet, but the bad news about the Cheng family has slowly spread. Kui Yudi was busy greeting the guests and didn't notice it yet. Inside the inn, Wei Guangxian stared at the people of the Wei tribe slowly pulling the Suan Wuading out of the warehouse. As soon as the ox cart moved, everyone's hearts were excited. After today, the Suan Wuading belongs to their Qi country. There is no need to look at the expression of Envoy Wu Ya in frustration anymore. Everyone's focus is on the Suan Wu cauldron, and the other princesses don't even want to take a second look at it. Princess Wui's dowry went out first, and the imperial guards also left. When Princess Wui got on the sedan chair, there were only a few people left around her, and she was so angry that she almost took off her hijab on the spot. The courtesy officer was very persuasive and persuaded her for a long time before he persuaded her to get into the sedan chair. However, something went wrong as soon as the sedan chair arrived at the Cheng mansion. She was stuck 100 meters away from the Cheng mansion gate, unable to get even half an inch in. "What's going on?" The angry Princess Wei raised her head and looked at the bearer outside with blazing eyes. The bearer replied weakly, "Princess, Your dowry Suan Wuading is too big, and the Cheng family's gate is too small to enter, Princess Wei. How dare such a small family want to marry her? What a joke. Go. Tell the people in the Cheng mansion to open a new door. If my princess's dowry cannot come in, I will not marry, Princess Wei said angrily. The maid was so frightened that she hurried out to spread the message, but she did not dare to mention the words that the princess would not marry. I don't know how the maid scared the Cheng family. Immediately, the Cheng family hired some carpenters to saw off the partition between the front door and the side door. They performed a wedding show of tearing down the door for the guests, but it didn't work for everyone. The well-informed dignitaries widened their eyes and marveled. When Suan Wuading entered the door of Cheng's mansion, the sedan chair was carried directly into the mansion. Princess Wei even led the sedan chair across the fire pit. It was the first time for everyone to see such a strange way of entering the bride's house. They had some inexplicable expectations in their hearts, and they didn't know what was going on. As the sedan chair was being carried into the hall, Cheng Hong cleared his throat and stretched out his hand affectionately. Princess, please get off the sedan chair. There was no movement in the sedan chair. In the hall, everyone's expressions looked a little strange. Cheng Hong's face froze, he took a deep breath and continued to speak. This time his voice was a little more pleading. Princess, if you have any requests, just ask me. Whatever I can do, I will do it for you. Really, the person in the sedan finally spoke. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief, but heard Princess Wei say unhurriedly, then just send me to the new house directly. I am tired and want to rest. Cheng Hong frowned with dissatisfaction, but did not dare to show it. He only looked at the official for help. The ceremony officer had no choice but to step forward and persuade her. Princess, according to the rules of Qi state, you cannot do the courtesy of worshipping in the hall. If your name is not legitimate, you will be embarrassed in the Cheng mansion in the future, which will not be beneficial to you. It's so annoying, you have so many things to do. Princess Wei scolded in a bad tone, suddenly opened the curtain of the sedan chair, and stood up. The ceremony officer ignored the ugly faces of everyone in the Cheng family and shouted, "The princess consort is here to pay her respects." The wonderful ceremony ended because of Princess Wei's perfunctory behavior. Kui Yudi was severely slapped in the face, and the smile that she managed to maintain finally lost its hold and sank. Cheng Jiao whispered from the side, "Mom, calm down. Think about the Suanwu cauldron." Kui Yudi slowly closed her eyes. For Suanwu Ding, she endured it. The princess and the consort entered the new house, and the banquet began. Cheng Jiao said enthusiastically, "Auntie, let's go. Let's go out to eat too and see what these 750 tales of banquets look like. If the other party dares to fool us." Kui Yudi understood immediately and immediately followed her daughter out. She sat down and stayed still in the name of greeting the guests. When all the dishes were served, she was also observing the guests' reactions. The first few dishes were all decent, just ordinary meat dishes. It seemed that the nobles didn't use their chopsticks much. Kui Yudi wanted to have a seizure immediately, but was suppressed by Cheng Jiao. Soon a dish of braised sea cucumbers with green onions was served, and almost all the guests used their chopsticks, not to mention Kui Yudi and Cheng Jiao, who would definitely not be at a loss for themselves. They took a bite and then paid attention to the reactions of others, and they heard the lady next to me said, "Mrs. Cheng, your family must have hired the chef from Yangda restaurant. This braised sea cucumber with green onions tastes exactly like theirs." Kui Yudi was a little embarrassed. She even forgot to ask Cheng Dongjiang which chef he had found. How could he answer the call now? Wouldn't it be embarrassing if it wasn't? Just when she was hesitating, another lady spoke up, "It must be the chef of Yangda restaurant. I've eaten there many times and I can't be wrong."